Over the next 20 minutes or so, I want to walk you through how DefencIQ helps Australian businesses earn and keep their place in the defence supply chain. We've built a structured pathway to Defence Industry Security Program membership, or DISP for short, specifically for small and medium-sized organisations. Not a watered-down enterprise framework and not a generic cyber checklist. A method engineered for your context. This briefing covers 7 areas. First, the problem, why DISP requirements catch most organisations off guard, and what's at stake commercially when they do. The approach, what it actually means to be DISP-ready, and how we think about getting you there. The phases, the 5-phase pathway we follow on every engagement, the services, the 6 named services that deliver each phase, and how they fit together. Why DefencIQ? What makes us the right firm for this kind of work? Engagement overview, what a typical engagement looks like from start to finish. And next steps, 2 ways to start, neither of which requires a commitment. So let's get into it by talking about the shift that's reshaping how defence-aligned businesses operate. For a long time, security sat with the IT team. It was a technical concern, handled technically, and the rest of the business got on with winning work. That has now changed. For defence-aligned SMEs, security has moved from the back office to the deal desk. It is now a precondition for revenue. If your organisation has been asked to demonstrate Essential 8 Maturity Level 2 or to hold DISP membership, the conversation has already moved beyond IT. It's a commercial conversation. It affects which contracts you can bid for, which primes will work with you, and ultimately, whether you have a seat at the table at all. What you'll typically see on the page is some combination of 4 things. Essential 8 at Maturity Level 2. Demonstrated DISP membership held. Specific security controls implemented in your environment. And evidence. The ability to produce proof of your maturity on request. Each of these sounds like an IT requirement. In practice, they are commercial gates. Here's the pattern we see most often. In the early stages of a defence engagement, capability shortlisting, pre-tender conversations, security barely comes up. It's mentioned, but it's not detailed. Then the tender lands and the security clauses appear. DISP, Essential 8, assurance language, all embedded in the document. At that point, most organisations make a judgment call about how much they need to do up front. The challenge is what happens next. The award arrives, onboarding begins, and a prime or defence asks for current evidence of your posture. Often, that's the first time anyone in the business has been asked to prove anything, and the picture can change again mid-contract. A new clause is activated. A flow-down requirement is tightened. Suddenly, you're under timeline pressure to demonstrate maturity you weren't asked about 6 months ago. And then, at renewal, or at rebid, eligibility itself becomes the question. Without a defensible posture, there is no path forward. The point is this: security requirements rarely arrive when you'd like them to. They arrive mid-engagement, under pressure, with commercial consequences attached. So what does it actually mean to be DISP-ready? In the defence world, it means 3 things at the same time. First, aligned. Your security posture maps cleanly to Australian government expectations. Essential 8, the Information Security Manual, the DISP membership criteria. No translation layer between what you do and what they ask for. Second, defensible. Each control isn't just present, it's implemented in a way that holds up to scrutiny. A prime can examine it. Defence can examine it. An auditor can examine it. There are no ambiguous claims, no untested assertions, nothing that falls apart under a follow-up question. Third, demonstrable. Evidence is current, organised, and retrievable. When somebody asks you to prove your maturity, you produce that proof in days, not months, not in a panic. When all 3 are true at once, you're not just compliant on paper, you're commercially credible. And that's the posture we help our clients build. The way we get there is a 5-phase pathway: practical, repeatable, and defence-aligned. We assess, establish where you actually stand today. We uplift, close the gaps that block eligibility. We govern, build the governance framework and security operating model your submission will depend on. We certify, complete the DISP submission, answer the CSQ, and get you across the line. And we operate, provide ongoing security leadership so the posture holds as your business changes. Every phase produces a tangible artifact, something you can show to a prime, to defense, or to an auditor. The pathway is designed to remove ambiguity from the process. You can engage us for individual phases, buying the services you need and retaining internal ownership of the process. Or you can hand the entire DISP journey to DefencIQ under our DISP as a service model, where we take full ownership of the outcome. I'll come back to that shortly. Each of those 5 phases is delivered through a named service, with a defined scope, clear outputs, and a fixed point of accountability. Let's look at how that maps. Phase 1, Assess, is delivered through the Readiness Assessment. This is your starting point. It tells you exactly where you stand before committing to anything else. Phase 2, Uplift, is delivered through Essential 8 Uplift. Controls implemented, gaps closed, maturity achieved. Phase 3, Govern, is delivered through the Security Management Framework, the governance structure, policy suite, and operating model that makes your submission credible and your posture sustainable. Phase 4, Certify, is delivered through DISP submission and CSQ. Every question in the cybersecurity questionnaire answered, every evidence item uploaded, ready for defense assessment. And Phase 5, Operate, is delivered through the vCISO retainer. Ongoing security leadership, so your posture holds after certification and across every renewal. And then there's DISP as a service, which sits across all 5 phases. Rather than engaging with each service individually, DISP as a service is the full ownership model. One engagement, one accountable team, DefencIQ responsible for the outcome end to end. I'll come back to that in detail shortly. 5 phases, 6 services, 2 ways to engage. Now let's go through each service in detail. The Readiness Assessment is where every engagement begins, and typically takes around 2 to 4 weeks to complete. What we're doing here is establishing an honest, evidence-led baseline of your current security posture against Essential 8 Maturity Level 2 and the DISP membership criteria. The emphasis is on honest. We're not interested in making the numbers look good. We're interested in knowing exactly where the gaps are, so you can make informed decisions before committing to a path. The work involves structured interviews with your IT team, your operations team, and your leadership. A technical review of your controls against Essential 8. DISP eligibility, mapping at entry level, and a stocktake of your existing documentation and policies. What you walk away with is a prioritized gap register with effort estimates attached, a defensible roadmap to DISP eligibility, and an executive briefing in language your board can actually use. Clear, no jargon. The output is a single document, the DISP Readiness Baseline Report. Every subsequent decision, in our engagement or yours, flows from it. Essential 8 Uplift is the remediation service, typically 6 to 16 weeks, depending on where you started. This service is about closing the gaps that block DISP eligibility. The key word is targeted. We don't sequence the work by checklist order. We sequence it by risk, by effort, and by commercial impact. The blocking gaps get addressed first. The cosmetic ones can wait. The work itself spans Essential 8 Maturity Level 2 implementation, policy and procedure drafting, tailored to your scale, hardening of the tooling you already use, multi-factor authentication, patching, application control, and uplift in personnel screening and insider risk practice. How we work with you matters here. We embed with your IT team or your managed service provider. We don't run a parallel track that hands over a binder at the end. We work in risk-ranked sprints, not multi-month waterfalls. Your leadership team has weekly visibility on progress, and decisions are framed commercially. What it costs, what it enables, what it protects, not just technically. The output is an operating environment that meets Essential 8 Maturity Level 2 in practice. Implemented, documented, ready to be evidenced. The Security Management Framework is the governance service. typically 4 to 8 weeks. This is a service that organizations often try to skip, and it's usually the reason their DISP submission stalls. DISP doesn't just assess whether your controls are implemented, it assesses whether your organization has the governance structure to sustain them. Those are two different questions. What we build here is the governance architecture your submission depends on. A security governance structure with clear accountability mapping, a policy suite aligned to DISP and ISM requirements, a security operating model tailored to your size and risk profile, and defined roles, responsibilities, and review cadences. So governance isn't a document that sits in a drawer. Why it matters: DISP requires demonstrated governance, not just implemented controls. Getting this right prevents rework at each audit, renewal, or rebid cycle. It gives your leadership a defensible position when primes start asking questions. And because it's built once and maintained continuously, not recreated per submission, the investment compounds over time. The output is a security management framework you can hand to an auditor, a prime, or defense without qualification. DISP submission and CSQ is the certification service, typically 2 to 4 weeks. The cybersecurity questionnaire, the CSQ, is the primary mechanism defense uses to assess your eligibility for DISP membership. It's a structured questionnaire in the DISP membership portal. You answer every question. You attach evidence against every requirement. And what's in the portal is what gets assessed, not what you intended to say, not what's sitting in a folder somewhere. What we do, we complete the CSQ in the portal on your behalf. We map your existing controls and documentation to each question. We source, format, and upload supporting evidence against every requirement. And we review every response for consistency, accuracy, and assessor readiness before anything is submitted. Why it matters: an incomplete or inconsistent CSQ is the most common reason DISP applications stall or get sent back. Assessors read what's in the portal. Evidence that can't be matched to a question doesn't count. A well-prepared submission significantly reduces back and forth with the DISP team and accelerates your path to membership. The output is a completed, submitted CSQ. Every question answered, every evidence item uploaded, ready for defense assessment. The vCISO retainer is the ongoing service. No fixed end date. Here's the truth about security maturity. It's not a project. It's a posture. The day you achieve DISP membership is the day your environment starts to change again. New tools, new staff, new contracts, new guidance from defense. Without someone watching that picture, the posture drifts, and the next renewal or rebid catches you short. What ongoing looks like: quarterly maturity reviews with your leadership team, continuous Essential 8 monitoring and change management. We track defense guidance changes so you don't have to, and incident readiness exercises and tabletop drills so your team knows how to respond when something does happen. The vCISO sits in a specific position in your organization: trusted advisor to your executive and board, commercial translator between your IT team, your primes, and defense, custodian of your evidence between submissions, and the first call you make when a prime introduces a new clause you weren't expecting. The output isn't a document, it's a defensible posture, year on year. Your eligibility is preserved across rebids, renewals, and changes in defense guidance. You don't have to rebuild from scratch every time. Now, those 5 services can be engaged individually, and many clients do exactly that, selecting only what they need and retaining internal ownership of the rest. But for organizations that want a different model entirely, we offer DISP as a service. DISP as a service is full ownership, all 5 services, one engagement. DefencIQ accountable for the outcome, not just the advice. What that means in practice: you get all 5 services: Readiness Assessment, Essential 8 Uplift, Security Management Framework, DISP submission and CSQ, and the vCISO retainer, under a single engagement with a single price and a single accountable team. DefencIQ owns the DISP journey from assessment to certification to ongoing maintenance. Pricing is confirmed within 5 business days of completing the readiness assessment. Who it's for: organizations that want DISP done, not DISP managed internally. SMEs without a dedicated security function or internal compliance resource, primes requiring a single point of accountability from a subcontractor, and organisations under contract pressure with no time to build internal capability. The output: DISP membership achieved and maintained. DefencIQ accountable for the outcome, not just the advice. Whether you engage us for one service or all 5, the pathway is the same. The difference is who's carrying it. A quick word on who we work with. We focus on small and medium-sized organisations that are entering or already operating within the defence supply chain. That includes defence subcontractors at Tier 2 and Tier 3, where security clauses from primes are now flowing down. Engineering and manufacturing firms that handle controlled technical data or produce components for defence platforms. Technology providers, software, infrastructure, integration with defence customers or defence-bound contracts. And professional services firms, advisory, legal, consulting, that handle sensitive defence-related information. Different industries, but a common pattern. Smaller organisations being asked to demonstrate enterprise-grade security without enterprise-grade resources. That is the gap we exist to close. Let me give you a sense of what a typical engagement actually looks like. This is anonymised, but it's representative of what we see. An engineering subcontractor, around 45 staff, was midway through a multi-year engagement with a prime when a flow-down clause was activated. They were given 90 days to evidence Essential 8 Maturity Level 2, or risk losing the contract. They had no DISP membership. Their Essential 8 coverage was partial. They had no evidence library. Their internal IT team was capable, but they had no structured pathway, no defence-aligned narrative, and no time to learn one from scratch. We ran our readiness assessment in 3 weeks. That established a clear baseline and a short list of blocking gaps. We then ran Essential 8 Uplift over 10 weeks, closing those gaps using their existing tooling where possible. The security management framework was built in parallel with Uplift, and we completed the CSQ and packaged the evidence into a prime-ready submission inside the window. The contract was retained, and the same artifacts they produced under pressure are now being reused, without scramble, across 2 further tenders. Total elapsed time, about 16 weeks. The vCISO retainer continues. That's the model. Move fast under pressure, but produce something durable enough to use again and again. So why use DefencIQ specifically? I'll give you 3 reasons. First, we are purpose-built for the SME context. Our pathway is engineered for organisations that need defence-grade rigour without enterprise-grade overhead. It's sized to your reality, not to a Big 4 template that assumes you have a 40-person compliance function. Second, we combine a purpose-built readiness platform with expert-led consulting. The platform removes ambiguity from evidence handling. It's the connective tissue. The judgment work, the decisions, the interpretation, the conversations with primes is done by senior consultants, not by junior analysts billing junior hours against a senior brief. Third, we are independent. DefencIQ is an independent advisory firm. We are not affiliated with defence. We are not affiliated with government. We are not tied to a vendor stack or an audit pipeline. Our incentives align to your outcome, which means we can tell you honestly when you don't need to spend money. Our method is consistent. Assess, uplift, govern, certify, operate. Aligned to Essential 8, DISP, and the ISM, based in Brisbane and Sydney, delivering nationally. A quick look at indicative timelines. Every engagement is shaped to the organisation, but the numbers on this slide are typical for a 25 to 75 person defence-aligned business that is starting from a partial baseline. Readiness assessment, 2 to 4 weeks, low to medium effort. You receive your readiness baseline report and gap register. Essential 8 uplift, 6 to 16 weeks, medium to high effort. You receive an operating environment aligned to maturity level 2. Security management framework, 4 to 8 weeks, medium effort. You receive a governance framework, policy suite, and security operating model. DISP submission and CSQ, 2 to 4 weeks, medium effort. You receive a completed, submitted CSQ with all evidence uploaded. vCISO, ongoing, on a retainer basis. You receive a maintained security posture and change managed evidence. These figures are indicative. Each engagement is scoped against your specific situation, and we discuss commercial detail under NDA, never in a slide deck. If today's conversation has been useful, there are two ways to start, and neither one requires commitment. The first, which we recommend, is to book a 30-minute strategy call with a senior advisor. We'll map your contract context, your current security posture, and the most credible path to DISP eligibility. And we'll tell you honestly whether we are the right firm for your situation. Sometimes we aren't, and we'll say so. You can book directly at defenciq.com.au/booking. The second option is our free DISP Quick Start Assessment at quickstart.defenciq.com.au. It's a short online assessment that gives you a clear snapshot of where you stand against DISP and Essential 8 Maturity Level 2, the key gaps, and a realistic view of cost, effort, and timelines. Most clients do this first, then book the call to talk it through. Both are on the screen, and either is a good place to start. I'll leave our details here on the screen while we wrap up. You can reach us on 1300 067 001, by email at info@defenciq.com.au, or visit defenciq.com.au, where you'll find links to both the strategy call booking and the Quick Start Assessment. We have staff based in both Brisbane and Sydney, and we work with clients nationally. Thank you for your time today. I hope you found the information here useful in learning more about how to obtain and maintain DISP membership. Clarity on what's required begins with a conversation, so reach out to us today and let's get started.